you can see putting up here, reviewing the 4 buying emotions. Some people want to buy because they have pleasure right now or they have pleasure in the future. Some people may not have pain. They may not have any reason to go there. It's all gain. It's all pleasure. So don't take that literally. We just tend to call that compartment the pain tunnel because it tends to be more motivated to take action on when we get for it. So that's where that comes on there. So if we can here for just a second, Zach, if you could come off of mute for a second, and just in your experiences doing this before Sandler and now during Sandler, do you have any thoughts or comments on the whole prospect pain gain thing from your perspective in the guts of IPC world? Help us with that.
Yeah, I think the way for me, and there's two schools of thought here. So one is the inbound business or the leads that kind of come to us through a referral or something that are really warmed up, and then there's like just the cold call. You know, you're trying to you see a new account and you want to go after it. The way that I apply things that I learned through foundations and President's Club, the few times I've been there, is different for each of those two opportunities. But really with either one, it kind of starts out with a gain conversation, and then we talk about historical pain that they've had. For me, not that that's the only way to go about doing it, but that's kind of, and you get that out in the open really quickly in the process, just like how it is in the submarine. Sometimes I kind of address different sections of the cycle. I might address decision-making process. If the last 5, experiences I've had or opportunities I've had have struggled because of decision-making process qualification, I might move that up to the front of what I'm trying to figure out. I've noticed that I kind of do that, so it's a little bit reactive.
Okay.
But pain is always right there in the front, to answer your question. And it helps a lot to know that before you proceed.
So, Zach, stay there. I appreciate you saying that, but any real-life examples of why somebody, maybe you got them to move quicker? Was it because you don't have this, or you do have this, or you uncovered a past experience? Any real-life examples that you just know that I uncovered it, it's a no-brainer to pick us, just stick out and talking about it? They were pissed last time, or they're disappointed, or it took too much time, or wasn't enough action, or anything you really uncovered?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example yesterday, about as recent as I have, and it was with a company called Classy Llama. And Classy Llama is a tech company, and they're here in Springfield. They got about 50 web designers and all these different engineers and stuff. And ended up speaking with them about, really quickly, kind of that she let it out without me having to really ask a lot of questions, that they do something pretty much monthly for their employees. And so that's unusual, first of all. In our world, we have to recognize to do something monthly for all of your people is kind of not usual on that scale. So to me, it seemed like a clear indicator that they're one of these new age companies like Google or something. They're really focused on how can we, enrich the lives of our employees and their families. And so we just kind of started talking about that and their family culture, and of course moved quickly into asking what things they've done in the past, what other events have they done monthly, to get an idea of if we'd be a good fit. And we started to talk about one of our competitors that is very similar in a lot of ways, but offers alcohol, has a full bar, and really uncovered some obstacles, reasons that they would never really want to go back to that place because it didn't really match up and jive with the family culture that they were trying to promote. And so we were really able to bond over that without me having to take a fight with the competitor. They pushed it all out. I just kind of, and before I might come right out of the gate and say something, like, well, you probably don't want to go to Andy V's because they have alcohol. It's just a lot less of me talking and letting them kind of talk. And as they're talking, they're getting worked up in the conversation, and you just kind of sculpt away at that. So that's my most recent example of something I handled a lot different now, using things that I learned from Sandler, what I would have done before.
Awesome, thank you. I think that's what we realized the last time we was called, Zach, is that we might have to chime in every once in a while because you seem to be a step ahead of everybody in the culture, getting your head around this and taking it in because you were able to come there for a while. You can help us apply it to their real world, so thank you for that. So guys, that's just a review there on the screen of how people buy, what are their emotions. 3 elements of pain. So we're going to have surface pain, we're going to have business pain, the reasons for their surface pain, and the person will be back. So the reason
tends to be the history that Zach was talking about. Is what did they do, or what did they do, what did they see, and then how did it impact that person in charge of that. So a big thing here when we talk about pain, you guys, it's just that emotional compelling reason to do business with you. It's their emotional compelling reason to change or to choose you. However you want to word that, if you can uncover their emotional compelling reasoning, they're going to probably take action on that. That's what I really want you to remember on that one. So as we move through here, we have this thing. This is not one of the compartments to your submarine, but we call it questioning techniques, or sometimes you'll hear us say a questioning strategy. So today, I want to just introduce you some knowledge and awareness of 3, maybe 5 of these different questioning strategies. And you're going to have some bull crap meter go off. You're going to have some head trash with this. You're going to say to yourself, I promise you, I'm not using that one. But I implore you that don't take it out of context. Don't try to fit them in too quickly. Just take the concept, and then we'll figure out how it fits in your world. Zach alluded to a couple of them, but we'll go there. So this first one is what we call the dummy curve. And if I can explain this one a little bit, you can see where the dummy side of the dummy phase, or the dummy side of this curve, is the person that doesn't know the answers. So it's usually when someone's pretty new in the sales game. That's why you see time here. If I was my first day at Incredible Pizza and I took a phone call and they asked me questions, I may not know the answers because I'm dumb. I'm just in the dummy phase of the game. But what happens is that sales professional tends to move into the amateur phase, and that's when somebody really starts to know and understand the products and the services and the features, the benefits, and all the cool stuff. What happens in the amateur phase, whether they're pretty new and they're just trained, or they're very seasoned, been doing a long time, they answer all the questions. They sell, they tell, they educate. They want to give all the information, do everything they can, because that's the way they see it. But what I want to throw at you a little through the side window here is I want you to move to more of a professional phase of this dummy curve theory. I'm not saying you're going to agree with this, but the professional phase is the one that acts dumb on purpose. Now, when I say that, some of you are going to think that's just weird. Why would I want to act dumb on purpose? Well, what it is that sometimes people will shoot you a smoke screen, or they'll ask you a question that's not the real question. Or sometimes they say one thing, but they mean another. That happens to us in life, and it happens to us all the time in the sales calls, whether they're calling in and you and for you call center people, or some of you outside people are actually going and talking about a larger event. There's a game being played. So the dummy curve theory is one of our questioning strategies that we can use to dummy up to get more information. So I'm just throwing it out there that if you don't feel like my hunch is most people are on the phone call or in the amateur phase, I want to get over here. So let's just kind of talk about what this means here. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to allow the prospect to do most of the talking. So you're seeing some percentages there. That comes from a rule that we call the 70-30 rule. The 70-30 rule is just saying, listen 70% of the time and only do about a third of the talking. What it's saying in the 70-30 rule is you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Use your ears 2/3 of the time and only talk 30% of the time, and maybe when you're talking, you're doing more questions than you are saying anything. So let me go back. The dummy side over here, this might be 70-30 rule. Down here in the amateur phase, that might be a person who's only listening 30% of the time. They're blabbing all about all their stuff. My goal is to get you here where you're back listening 70% of the time and you're asking questions and talking maybe only a third of the time. Guys, if you don't remember anything out of this, just remember, a prospect or a customer who's listening is no prospect or customer at all. If they're listening, they're not getting emotional. You want them doing the talking. So, there's your 70-30 rule. So when it comes to the dummy curve, here are some phrases that you can say. They're very simple. Some of them are very quickly. One of my favorite ones is not even on here. My favorite one is, what do you mean? So it doesn't mean, let's say somebody said something, you said, well, help me for a second. I'm confused. When you say that you didn't appreciate what they did at the other place, what do you mean? Those are two dummy curves. Help me, Mrs. Johnson. When you say you weren't happy, I'm confused. What's that mean? You may not need the help, you guys. You may not be confused at what they mean. But it's a dummy. You're dummying up to get them to do the talking, so you're doing the listening 70% of the time. Most sales professionals, when somebody tells them something, they just go right past it and try to sell them something. Well, we're getting you to say, if somebody said, well, tell me about the last time you used that event. And they said, well, we really didn't appreciate it, ... At that moment, Zach can make a comment or can say, well, help me understand something. I'm confused. When you say you didn't appreciate it, what do you mean? He's dummying up. He doesn't need the help. He's not confused. He knows what they mean. He's just using dummy phrases to get them to do the talking. So let me take a time out, you guys, so I can stop doing all the talking. Carrie, are you still on here? Can you come off of mute for a second and engage with me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are. How you doing?
Here I am. Good.
So when you see that dummy curve or those dummy phrases like that, what are you processing? What are you thinking?
No, I think that's great. It gives a further opportunity for them to talk. It helps you better define and helps you get more information.
Okay. Daniel, can you come off of mute? And any thoughts as you're looking at that? I can't remember if you've seen that before or not.
I have not seen this before. I most definitely see the benefit of it because I do a lot of talking. I'm one of those people that sells the features, and I don't really ask those questions in particular. So I think I could start doing that.
Okay, got it. Michael, I think you're still on our audio. Can you come off and mute? Anything you're processing when you're seeing that stuff?
Yeah, I'm the same as Daniel. I think it's great. I'm kind of the same way. I'm trying to change and listen more and ask more dummy questions, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad you're saying it that way. So you guys, I think it's really one of those things. I don't know if I've ever met a professional that says I'm perfect at listening and I'm a perfect listener. We all can improve at listening. But I think what'll help you is one way to listen more and keep that 70-30 rule in your game is to really just use your dummy phrases. And guys, what helps me when I see those for the first time, when I got around them for the first time, I started to dummy up on the wishy-washy words or the English slang. So sometimes people say things, and we have these sayings in America. It's like I was with a banker this morning, and he ran into a prospect that says, well, I'm just tired of chasing after my banker with a question. Well, that's an English slang, chasing after. So he knew what chasing after meant, but so he stayed in there and says, well, see number 13 on the screen, you guys? He said, well, help me, Bob. When you say chasing after, what do you mean? he just dummied up on that. So it's a very simple little concept, but I like what Michael and Daniel are saying there, that if we do need to raise our game in listening, and the only reason why we want to listen is we want that person to subconsciously believe that we get them, we understand them. We're actually giving them a time stroke that we learned in bonding rapport. Remember, all people are stroke deprived, so when somebody says something, we say, well, when you say that, what do you mean? We're actually giving them a stroke to talk. And when people are talking, they feel like they're making an impact. So, good one, Michael. Skylar, I know you've seen those. I don't know if you can come off of mute, but anything that you're processing from the call center world? Any thoughts there from your guys' perspective? Or is it hard for you to get back on and talk? I know you're listening. I can see you, but...
No, I'm kind of the same as Michael and Daniel. I do a lot of talking. I'm doing my best to try to work on that listening.
Yeah, okay, cool. I know you guys are in a fast-paced environment, and people calling and hanging up, and next phone call comes. I get that. And this is not designed to slow everybody down, but and I'm not saying you got to dummy phrase them or dummy curve them all the way through the conversation. It might just be one or two times. So, Zach, anything to stay on here just from your experience? Do you find one that you tend to use a lot? Is it just unconscious for you? You're on mute, buddy. Zach, come off mute. Thanks.
A lot smarter on mute. No, I probably use every single one of them. This is my favorite part of the whole process, I think.
Okay.
And you begin to not really think about it when you're doing it. You just start. It buys you a lot of time. So I don't know if the other sales managers are like me, but I feel like I'm in my car constantly driving around. And I drive a stick shift, and so I got to get pulled over, and I got to get their account looked up, and I got to go and try to figure out their information, or if I'm in the store, I'm getting distracted and pulled up 100 different ways. So it's great to always buy a little bit of time with people on the phone and not feel so rushed. A lot of times people really call in. It's a price-driven call. They know what they want. They want it really fast. And by getting them to do a little bit more talking and explaining, not only do you create some additional time, but yet it helps with the bonding and rapport, obviously, to hear them talking a long time.
Okay, cool. All right, so why do you want to do the dummy curve? Because I've had people say, that's just stupid. Why would we want to dummy up on something when we know the answer? But here's what it is, guys. Sometimes it's just our ability to gather more of their information than what we're gathering. We want to make sure we're solving the right problem for them, if there even is a problem. And sometimes we get into where we do a lot of work and quoting, and maybe we don't have any kind of a chance at it because we just blindly answered all the questions. I don't know if that really fits in your guys' world. We'll figure that out. But there would be three strong reasons of why we'd even want to do it. My favorite one is, are we gathering the right information and dealing with the correct deal? Are we really talking about the truth, I guess is what I'm saying here. So this is a big Sandler rule, and I think it's kind of an internal one. So and there's actually two of them there. Number one is, some of you on the call have been doing this a while. You're professionals. You know this stuff in your sleep. So you do tend to mind read on that bottom one down there. You do tend to assume because you've been there, done it, and heard it all. But they can't feel that way. So that's why we have that rule, no mind reading. The guys, your value is truly determined by what you gather from them, not what you give them. Because remember, we're trying to get in that subconscious, their emotion that says, you get me, you understand me, and I'm going to let you help me be the scorer in this thing. There's a couple rules there just to hit you. So bottom line on these questioning strategies and this pain stuff is, if you don't know, ask. If you don't know how important the question is they're asking, if you don't know why they're asking or what's the intent behind it, we're going to ask. So dummy phrases are sometimes the ways to do that. So we're going to move into, we've already got our upfront contract. What we talked about a couple sessions ago is asking permission. That is actually a questioning strategy, is using your upfront contract to get permission to go there. But you can do it right in the middle. One of our questioning strategies is to ask permission right in the middle. Hey, Bob, you mind if I ask you a couple questions just to make sure I understand what your event's going to look like or what your event needs to do so it's successful? Don't forget to read the words. Just don't miss the point of getting their permission to go there. It's so critical. So guys, another strategy that we have is reversing. There's a couple problems with this though. A classic reverse might be, why are you asking? There. You must be telling me that for a reason. Is that a big concern for you? So reversing comes in different flavors. Sometimes if somebody makes a statement and they're not asking us a question, we don't have to answer that question. Sometimes people will ask us a question, and that might not be the time to answer it. It might be a place where we reverse. So the problem is people hate it when you answer a question with a question. It's just pretty common. So what we've got to do is we've got to do some things before we reverse so we don't fall into that trap. But reversing by itself can be very powerful. So let's pretend somebody said, hi, I'm calling about an event we're having, and we're calling several places around town. Well, that ends in a period. That doesn't end in a question mark. So we could say, well, thanks for calling Incredible Pizza. But I guess my question is you're telling me you're calling several events for a reason. Now the truth might come out. Whatever's behind that, it doesn't matter. So here's the thing, you guys, is we've got to soften the softening statement before we reverse. And the softening statements are going to be things like, good question. I was hoping you would ask that. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Everybody asks us that. The ones on your screen are going to say a lot of people ask that. That makes sense. Let's make sure we have enough time to go through that. Don't get hung up on the words. Just stay in the concept. You're going to have to get the ones that fit your behavior style and fit you and what you're comfortable asking. Zach, I just want to refer to you again, if you come off of mute, and I appreciate being on the call today because you bring in real live examples of probably being ahead of this stuff. Can you give us a classic softening reversing that you may have used in the last month of somebody just asking you straight out some questions?
Well, as I'm looking at, I don't know that I consciously, which means I'm probably just not doing it, softening my reverses. I was thinking I could get better at probably doing that because it really acts like another stroke as well.
Fair. Nice. Yeah, you're exactly right.
I mean, I've definitely said, I know if I do use some sort of softening statement, and I do say, I get that question a lot. I'll say that with folks all the time and make them feel like they're part of a, like a nice, like they asked a great question, But as far as a specific example, I don't. It's one of those things. There's probably a million of them, but I can't really think of one in particular. That's not a huge part of the process for me.
Yeah, but you got that one though. Instead of a lot of people say, well, that's a great question. Why'd you ask? But for you to say, hey, I get asked that question a lot, not uncommon. You hit the other body rapport stroke on this thing is that it is a stroke. If you just do the reverse, it's too raw. If you soften it, it actually softens and gives them a stroke for asking what they're asking. So you guys, another 70-30 number is that we want to be nurturing people 70% of the time, staying in the adult with the tough question 30% of the time. So there's a couple nuances there. Sometimes people will give us a positive statement. Let's say somebody says, I've heard Incredible Pizza is an awesome place, but can you guys really handle 100 people? So I'm going to give them they gave me a stroke. They said Incredible Pizza, I've heard, is an awesome place, but can you really handle 100 people? That's where you want to stroke them for their giving you a stroke. You want to repeat what they said and then reverse it. So let's say somebody said, well, I've heard Incredible Pizzas are an awesome place to have an event, but can you really handle 100 people? So the question, or let's say they said, can you really handle a lot of people? Well, we could say, I appreciate you saying it's an incredible, or it's an amazing place. We get that a lot. But help me, John. What you're asking if it can handle a lot of people for a reason. He might spend 5 minutes telling you about his event. It's not that he needed the answer. He just needed an opening to tell you about his event and what he's afraid of. And that's a way for us to get into that pain. So sometimes when we study the pain motivator, how do you get into it? I'm telling you guys, some ways to get into the pain funnel is either dummy curve them or soften and reverse their questions, because those are the smoke screens they're putting up. Small stroke, repeat, and reverse is saying is give them a stroke for what they said. Thanks, John. I appreciate your honesty on that, but help me. You're asking that for a reason. Stroke.
Can I just say that I like that? I like that a lot.
Yeah.
You're asking me that for a reason, because I typically right there go into absolutely, and do the give them. Yeah, we can accommodate that, and he goes right in it. But I like the hold there and let them expand more, get into the pain. I love that.
Very cool. Was that Carrie?
Yep, that's me.
Yeah, good one, Carrie. Because I think that I used to do that too. So you guys, if you can remember that staying left on the pendulum theory, a lot of people want to pull people up to that 3 o'clock as fast as they can. Because they want to say, oh yeah, absolutely, we can do that. And they Tommy boy the situation where sometimes, Carrie, like you're saying, we can stay there and say, John, I appreciate you bringing up that question. We get asked that a lot if we can accommodate those large groups. But help me, take a step back from me. Why are you asking that?
Mm-hmm.
And man,
I think I'm so excited just to answer it that, I can, I'm excited to offer that solution to their problem, but I missed the opportunity to learn more and to bond there.
Yep, you got it. Great point, Carrie. That was our point exactly. Guys, another very powerful questioning strategy is the third-party story. Sometimes when you're sitting there talking with someone and they might ask a question, they might make a statement, it may make sense to go into a third-party story. If you don't have third-party stories, call Zach, because I'm sure he's got a ton of them, and steal each other's. So here's one, I'm trying to read this. It says, I worked with a company last year that found it difficult to predict sales because they didn't keep track of their quotes. That wouldn't be the case with your company. So see, they're almost using somebody else's pain with this. So let's say, as Zach used the alcohol thing, you could say, you know what, Bob, we had a company that wanted to find an event that didn't have the alcohol option, so it was just off the table. I don't suppose that's the case with you guys. Now that guy might say, no, actually we're looking for alcohol. So we now know what we're dealing with. But he might say, well, actually you brought that up. That would be kind of nice not to even have that part of the picture. See, we use somebody else's story rather than our opinion. So can you see the opposite? We could say, hey, Bob, and we don't have alcohol at our event. And now we put ourselves in a box rather than be their idea. So third-party stories are very, very powerful. Menu questions are cool. So for some of you that are on the call that aren't Springfield, we're kind of famous for our cashew chicken. So when somebody goes to a cashew chicken place here, they'll say, I'll have cashew chicken. And the person behind the counter says, do you want white meat or dark meat? And then you choose, and then they go, do you want steamed rice or fried rice? So it's menu questions. Sometimes in the sales process, people need options to your question. So as you're thinking about the IPC questions, I want to reverse this back to you guys and give me some menu things that you think would work. But like here's something, the third party here, the guy says, sometimes when companies are looking for this type of product, they've either had problems with the off-shelf solutions, or they have some special circumstances, or they've heard of other people having issues. Are any of these the case here? See, that guy gave them 3 options to choose from. So in your world, you could say, hey, I'd be glad to talk about that event. But sometimes when people call us, they've either had a situation where their event didn't work out in the last place, or they're really just, this is the first place that they really want to try an event for their company. Do any of those fall into your game? Sometimes they go, well, it's funny you say that. The last place we did, we just didn't work out well. Now we're in the top of the pain funnel. Tell me more about that. What do you mean it didn't work out well? So the menu question is just a way sometimes to get people going. So is there anybody on the call that's used a menu question other than Zach? Go ahead, Zach, if you feel it. I thought you were reaching for your mute button. You were just grabbing your beer. Sorry.
I haven't even been on mute, and Cheers. No. So I use this whenever I'm prospecting for project graduations. I use this a lot. But again, it's just once you just start doing it, it's a blur because you're just doing it all the time. But with project graduations, I'll call and I'll say, it's kind of like your third-party story mixed in with the menu question, I guess. So my pitch to them usually is, in my market, almost everybody is going to a rec center, like a YMCA, after graduation, and they do a lock-in. And so they have this team of people, these parents, who have to go out and solicit tons of donations for food. They've got to do all the cleanup. They've got to get all the vendors to come in and coordinate inflatables or laser tag equipment or whatever they want. It's a big headache, and I know that going through the call. So I'll usually call in and I'll just say, I'll talk about my interaction with others at Project Grad and kind of what their experience is like. And, I end up saying a couple of different items, whether it's they got to go out and they have to source a bunch of food and half of it gets thrown away because the kids don't eat it. So I give them some menu options. But the third party comes in because I'm talking about other prospects I've worked with, and then I've asked them, is that something that you guys find yourself dealing with? Yeah, wow. And they're just so impressed. Now, granted, that's me knowing kind of ahead of time what I'm dealing with, but this is also helpful if you have no idea what you're dealing with to help identify pain.
Awesome. Yep, exactly. So, guys, menu questions is another option. So you can kind of see here we have dummy curve, we have softening and reversing statements, we have third-party stories, we have many questions like this. We're not trying to put anybody in a box. We're just looking at all the different tools that we have. And the bottom line, guys, is two things. We want to get the truth, and number two, we want to get them talking and get them in the pain funnel. So that's why we're kind of doing that. This other one on the screen is called a presumptive question. It's one of these strategies, you guys, that when you want to ask them something that they should have done but they didn't, or you're trying to go to the logic, sometimes the presumptive question can be very effective. You got to be careful because you don't want to do it when you can't be sarcastic. You got to do it in a very nurturing tone. So, for example, it looks like this example on the screen is somebody accepted a package, but it was damaged. So the customer service person, if they were sarcastic, they would go, well, when the driver arrived in the damaged package, you told him you wouldn't accept it. What did he say? You could piss off somebody if you have the wrong tone. But if you said, well, listen, can I ask you a tough question? Don't take it the wrong way. When you were standing there with the driver and the package was damaged, and you told him you didn't want to sign for it, what did he say? Well, in that case, they'd say, well, I didn't know it was damaged, or I didn't think of it, or whatever. But it's planting a seed of they could have done something. The bottom one is when my competitor asks you about your manufacturing process, what did he say? So what you're usually doing with a presumptive question is you're planting a seed of doubt, or you're getting them to realize they don't do that. So trying to think of an assumptive question in your guys' world. Somebody has one.
I got one. I got one. So when you ask them about their options for healthy items or gluten-free, what'd they say?
Good one, Tim. Yeah, so it could be in a dummy curve, you guys. Watch my body language. If I was in person, I might take off my glasses. I might scrub my forehead with no hair, my 5 head, and I might go, Mr. Johnson, help me understand something. When you guys sat down with the other event and you talked about the healthy options or the gluten-free options, what did that conversation sound like? So you're almost presuming, you guys, it's an assumptive question, a presumptive question. You're assuming that they did it, but there's a little part of you knows they probably didn't. You're kind of poking a little hole in it without saying anything bad about the competitor. So it's kind of one of those things that says, I'm never going to say anything derogative about my competitors, but I'll facilitate the fight in their head. And you do that by presuming or assuming they have the stuff that you don't have. So let me go to the other. So Tim, that's a beautiful one. So let me go to a really, you can be kind of snarky on this. Like if somebody says, well, we're thinking about using that event and we wonder what you guys could do for us. Well, this would be terrible to do, so don't say to do this, but let me be obvious with the presumptive question. So if somebody says, well, we're thinking about that other event, we thought we'd see what you guys can do for us. So when they told you about their roller coaster they don't have, what'd that feel like? Well, I mean, you can't do that. But Tim's right on the money. If you could nurture that and say, hey, that makes sense. Those events are great places. But help me with something, Bob. When you guys sat down and went through their healthy food options and even the gluten-free stuff, what did that conversation sound like? See, they're going to look at you and go, well, I didn't ask that, or they don't have that. And now you've got a little piece of pain that might be more motivating to pick you because you didn't tell them about your healthy options. You didn't tell them anything about the gluten-free. The presumptive question did it for you. Good one, Tim.
Thank you.
Another thing we got to be careful of. Yeah, go ahead. Is that Daniel?
No, I just said thank you. Sorry. You're good. Keep going. I just said thank you.
Oh, okay. Got it. I thought Michael actually had a point he was making. Mike, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Cool. Hey, well, we're not used to not seeing your smiling face, man. So guys, on the screen. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
That's okay. I was just telling Zach stop laughing.
Can't, man. I'm a happy guy.
So, guys, we got to be careful here in this last one. Questioning strategy is we got to be careful of unasked questions. Most amateur salespeople will answer. My challenge to you is to learn to reverse them. So, let's say Zach was prospecting, and he said, I don't suppose you ever considered IPC, Incredible Pizza. And they said what's on the screen. We are happy with our current event center. We're happy with our current choices where we have our events. Period. That's not a question mark. So Zach doesn't need to answer that. Or the classic one is, why should we consider using Incredible Pizza? We don't have to do that. We can reverse those. We can say, when you say you're happy with your current supplier, what do you mean? And we can soften and reverse that. So there's that family rule at the bottom. Be careful. Never answer an unasked question. What do you do instead? You reverse it. So I should have a summary page on here as my lesson learned to put some of these in front of you. But if you guys just kind of think about that, we've had presumptive questions. We've had menu questions, third-party stories, stroke, repeat, reverse. Let's use softening statements because Zach said it's a great way to stroke their question, and then let's reverse it so we understand what's behind it. And then let's be masters of the technique. It gets people talking. And then we have our upfront contractor, our asking permission technique. So, those are some of the questioning strategies that I wanted to bring to you. And guys, they really just drive the conversation so you can get to the truth and get them in that pain motivator, if there is a pain motivator. So, I don't know, Casey, can you come off of mute and just, what are you taking from today? What do you think about some of this stuff? Any thoughts? Biggest takeaway?
I think that it definitely answers some questions from last week of just kind of how to start that conversation about pain. Because I think that's something we were all struggling with.
Yep. Thank you for reinforcing that, because that's our purpose. Sometimes the pain funnel by itself is just kind of, well, how the hell you get somebody in there to say, tell me more, give me an example. But if we can dummy curve or negative reverse or do some sort of a questioning strategy for them to say something, then we can go at the top of that pain funnel and go, well, tell me more about that. Give me an example. How long have you guys been dealing with that? Great point, Casey. Thank you. Skylar, any takeaways from today? Because I think you and I have worked on this once or twice before in our own private groups, but any thoughts, any differences?
Yeah, I definitely like the softening and reversing. That's something that I'm going to need to work on.
I think that I was pretty comfortable softening people but I was struggling with reversing. So guys, I want you to realize that don't take this literal. You can answer the question. I'm just going to challenge you to reverse it when you're done. One of the questioning strategies of softening and reversing is answer the question, then reverse. Then you can get better at answering it, but stop in the middle of the answer and reverse it before you finish it. And we'll have some fun with that as we kind of practice that. How about you, Carrie? Can you come off of mute? And what are you taking from today?
I think I agree with Casey. Just it's really shows how to ease into that pain question and how to stay there. So that's what I like the most, and just the perceptive questioning, and it's just all really good.
Yeah, if you don't like the word presumptive questioning, you guys change it to assumptive. I don't know if that's a British thing or an American thing, but you're either assuming or presuming. So, Michael, what are you taking from today? We're so used to seeing your smiling face, but can you come off of mute? What's your takeaway?
Yeah, I hate you couldn't see me today. Sorry, something's wrong with this camera. But I'm like Casey and Carrie. It's the exact same as they're saying. You just don't really think about it when you're in the moment. And, you just, Daniel said earlier, just started going into what we're so comfortable with and, selling benefits and features versus letting them talk.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it kind of gets us out of that game. So what's going to happen, guys, is you're going to go back in your game. You're going to do features and benefits. You're going to be talking. You're going to be telling and selling the IPC experience. Nothing wrong with that, but you have some awareness. If your emotional calmness comes down to where you're aware that you're doing most of the talking, stop and use one of the strategies to reverse them. Sometimes, guys, there's been points where if I'm talking too much, I'll reverse them by this. I'll say, time out. Bob, I'm sorry. I'm doing all the talking. Ask me a question. And they'll ask me a question, and then I'll reverse it. Oh, that's interesting you picked that one. Why'd you ask that one? And they'll tell me, and then I'll put it in a paint funnel. So just try to catch yourself and just use some of the strategies to reverse to see if you can get more information. Good one, Michael. How about you, Daniel? Anything for you taken away today?
Well, for one, it is the dummy questions. I mean, I don't ask those if at all, really, and I can see how that's a really great part to the bonding rapport, portion of all of this. I think it'll help me.
Yeah. Awesome. What about, am I missing anybody on the call? So Sabrina, are you on here still? Or were you ever on here?
Yes, but I'm here.
Hey, there you are. I miss your face too on here. Usually you get a glimpse of somebody in there in the call, but what about you? Anything you're taking different? Because you've kind of heard the strategies before, but taking anything different?
Yes, I like the not to mind read. I do that a lot, especially with my supervisor calls, because I kind of feel like I already know why they want to talk to me. And I think if I don't do that, that's going to make my calls go just that much better.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we get stuff in our head. We make stuff up in our head that we start to read their minds. We've been there, done that. And we got to be careful of that. And our questioning strategies will slow that down.
Absolutely.
I drove my wife nuts learning the dummy curve because she would come in and ask me a question. I go, what do you mean? Help me understand how I'm supposed to be. And still married, so it's okay.
We've made many a joke about Bev and Brett and the constant reversing and stuff that probably goes on.
Can you imagine our poor kids? Bless their hearts. How about Zach? Again, thanks for being on here. You've helped us kind of apply it to your world. Natalie, any smart remarks from you?
Smart remarks. Really, Brett? No, I'm in the week for a management course, and I think now that I've kind of been refreshed on the 70-30%, I understand it more, and I think it's just getting past that uncomfortable feeling of providing that 70% of the listening, but actually getting those dummy phrases to fill in that silence is, I think, going to be very helpful.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Tim, I don't see anybody else on the screen. Am I missing anybody out there, you think?
I know Jessica's sick, so Jessica's not on. I think that's everybody. I think.
Okay. Tim, did you ever get your health back? You sound like you're still a little stuffed up.
I'm better. Yeah, I'm better. I'm not 100%, but I'm much better than I was last week. I was sick for about a week straight. Cool. Don't ever try that fudge. It's just not good. I'm feeling much better though. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, if you want to do any kind of homework or get ahead of our time next time, if you're listening to the audio or anything, we'll talk about budget next time and money and get our head around some of those kind of thoughts. So again, thanks for taking the time and resources of being on here. And again, Zach, thanks for applying some of your real world with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Brett.
Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye.